afternoon. What are we going to get today? All right. It's the Monday Club. Yeah.
That's the best thing ever.
And I am joined by the amazing Amy Canavan. And if you've not listened to Amy's interview with Paul Elliott, I suggest you do it right now.
Yes.
Soccer Supernova. Well done, Amy. Brilliant interview. How are you, Amy?
I'm doing really well. Like I say, I'm buzzing after last week. It was a bit mental for me. Like, say, Paul Elliott, that was unbelievable to get to speak to him. And honestly, it's not just because it's my own interview, but I'd urge anyone to listen to him because I think everybody should be a little bit more Paul Elliott. I really do. He is an exceptional man. He is an exceptional man. But yeah, on the contrast to that, it was great to talk to him. We were talking about bad days in Celtic's past, and as we were going through that, I think
we'll get to that, Amy. We'll get to that.
Yeah, I want to say well done as well, Amy. I thought it was the best interview you've done so far on the Supernova channel, and I just thought it was well done. It was brilliant. I loved it. I thought Paul Elliott as well, though. You asked him the right questions, but he can answer a question well. He's clear. He's an intelligent man, isn't he?
And I'm also joined on the Monday Club by the enigmatic Axom's answer to ooh-ah, chanting-ah, Russell Boyce. Mr. Boyce, how are you?
I'm good, mate. I'm good. It's going to be the strangest week, I think, since I've been involved with the show. I genuinely believe this is going to be the weirdest week yet, that we're going to get pelters at times, and you know what? No one's going to get more pelters than whoever's made this managerial decision, I don't think.
Well, get to that now. My opening outburst is going to be Kevin Graham-like. Okay, so here we go. First I'm going to make it, then I'm going to break it till it falls apart. Hating all the faking and shaking while you're breaking my brittle heart. Brittle heart, bring on the new Messiah, wherever he may roam. Bring on the new Messiah, wherever he may roam. Now, music aficionados will recognise that's a line or lyrics from Bring On the Dancing Horses by Echo and the Bunnymen. Now, the way I feel right now, board members are doing to every Celtic supporter's heart, they're breaking it, or as Laura Bradford would prefer me to say, they're tearing it asunder. The name Ange Postecoglou, Modern Studies essay, discuss for 30 marks. Let's go. Amy, your thoughts?
Wow. What a change from last week, isn't it? It's there's no denying it. It's ridiculously disappointing. I don't know right now if I'm more disappointed or if I'm more mortified, on behalf of the club. But wow, what a state we find ourselves in. I don't know how heavy to go in right away. I don't know if to gauge from Little how harsh we're going. But it's
do what you want, because I will.
It's a bit of a shake-up. How in the space from Wednesday, selling season tickets, basically saying all but saying house in the bag, to Thursday not being confirmed, to Friday we're in advanced talks with another manager. Wow, how quick do you get to an advanced talk stage? I think that just shows in itself the calibre of this manager. This is not a Brendan Rodgers-esque coming in. If there was if it was a man of that stature, of that due diligence, I don't think he would manage to go from being nowhere to being in advanced talks within 24 hours. That sort of sounds like a guy who's ready to drop everything at the drop of a hat. This is an opportunity he cannot turn down, and I am dying to be, in advanced talks with Celtic Football Club. It doesn't sound like the man that we're after. Then in complete other contrast, you can go with, how, we shouldn't be going for him. He's made us wait and wait. And we've been sitting in the corner like a little child and letting him decide and dictate everything, and let him, have all the toys that he wants at his disposal. He can go into, Toys R Us and pick everything you want, and then he ends up going to Smith's or something like that. So you can weigh it up in two options, but I think right now, I think it is mortifying that we have found ourselves in this state. This was a club for the past, I don't know, probably not for the full 10, but for 5 years, maybe 4 or 5 years, we have been a steady ship, a model of great governance and everything that is went well. And like I say, the steady strip is so far sunk. It's a disgrace. It's an embarrassment. So to find ourselves in this state, as you say, to be, I'm not even going to attempt to go for his surname, Tony. I'll leave that to you. But wow, it's been quite a shift from last week. Russell,
now I'm going to a few things I've said in the pod after February, right, when Neil Lennon left February. Right, tomorrow we're doing the first. Still no any further forward. But here's a snapshot of things I've said. Right, we wanted an appointment, not a disappointment. Right. Celtic jersey does not shrink to fit inferior players. The boardroom table does not shrink to fit inferior members. And then the St Francis prayer that I said, and I keep getting back to it, they have totally done this all by themselves. Where there was harmony, you brought discord. Where there was truth, you brought error. Where there was faith, you brought doubt. And where there was hope, you brought despair. Those words should be echoing around everywhere at Celtic Park right now, especially at the top level, because I cannot see where they go from here. And as Amy said, embarrassment doesn't even begin to cover it. What's your thoughts?
No, I agree with you. I think there's two sides as well. I think for me it's got the hallmarks of Ronnie Dyler. My concern is that it could be even more like Pedro Caixinha. An unknown quantity that comes into the game that's going to be ridiculed from the start, which I've always said on this show every single week, whoever gets the job, if it's not Howe, is going to be viewed as the second best option, and we're all going to deep down know you weren't the guy we wanted, and that's going to count against him from the start, rightly or wrongly. The only move for me I thought Celtic should have made was for a big name. I think that just to try and reconnect the fans, I don't know where they go with season tickets now with this appointment. I just don't. And I'm not saying it's right to be like this judgmental, and we've probably not done all our homework on him, but the fact is that is how it's going to be. You're trying to unite a huge fan base here, and you're not going to do it with unknown quantities. Whether I've seen someone post on Twitter yesterday that he's won the equivalent of the European Championships. I find that, complete just flattery, beyond all reality. I don't think that's quite what he's done at all, to be fair. And I think there's also the question you need to ask, Tony, is why is it only Celtic looking at a 55-year-old manager now? Why? I've never seen him linked to one big job before. I expect us to double down on Howe. I thought if we didn't go for Howe, try and get a huge appointment made. Something, even if it is a Frank Lampard, right, which I'm not advocating. Everyone calm down. But I think he would have been he would have been a name that gave a lot of young fans hope anyway, because he's such a well-known quantity. Unlike miss out on your number one and then go for someone, if we're all being honest, none of us have heard of. I think it's a bold move. Hopefully it pays off. I can't see it.
So and Amy, I just don't think Postecoglou is on MD's wanted list, personally. I think it was an insult to every Celtic fan's intelligence that it was put out through various media platforms that they'd been scouting this guy for months. Amy said there, he scouted a guy for 3 months, couldn't get a signature, and then all of a sudden, within 72 hours or less than that, you've done all your due diligence on this guy. I mean, it's incredible. And then you've done your due diligence to the fact that there's even more worrying press reports that he might not even have his coaching badges or his licences to actually do the job in this country. I mean, Amy, surely these are things that should be nailed down. If you have scouted this guy for months, you would know these things. So that's why I'm saying it's insulting to you and I intelligence that they've done any kind of homework on this guy. It just reeks of amateur hour, really, doesn't it?
Absolutely, it's beyond amateurish. It really is. And we can sit here and the club can say, we've kept tabs on him for a few months. Well, it doesn't really seem the case. All our eggs were in Eddie Howe's basket. That's certainly what it seemed. You can't say we're selling season tickets basically on the banking that the manager, we'd hope for him to be announced. And I appreciate they've not said how, so you could just all be hearsay and rumours. But I am under 99% assurance that it's how that they were referring to it. And if anybody else thinks otherwise, please offer up. But it is amateurish. There is this whole malarkey about his UEFA licence, and it's just, and again, and I understand that we've got to appreciate his achievements that he's done across the world. You look in Australia, and of course players are going to come out now and say, he's well equipped, he's well organised, he won't settle for anything other than the best. Of course they're all going to say that, but I think, who was it? I can't remember. It was ABC Australia. I think they woke up and I think everybody said that Australia was in absolute raptures that he'd been linked to Celtic. That just shows you how big a move this is. So of course people can come in and say he's been linked to other roles, but this is as close as it's got and as big as it's got. And again, we could totally, he could be revolutionary. He really could be, but I don't think the manner right now, I don't think the mortifying scenario and all my feelings of angst, it's not around him, it's the way that the club have handled it. How have we got ourselves into this position?
Yep.
This is the stable ship that we have been for the last 4 or 5 years, whatever you want to determine it to this. And that's what I mean, that we've went from, pretty much assuring fans that we've got him on the Wednesday, not having him on the Thursday, but to be in advanced talks with somebody else on a Friday. That is a predicament that we shouldn't be finding ourselves in. We shouldn't be. People are coming in saying that Howe's not this great big manager that we've that we're making him out to be. Well, how are we not then even attracting that mediocre manager? How are we not selling ourselves to Howe? Why are we sitting in the corner waiting for Howe, waiting for his staff? Well, Glasgow Celtic then. Why? We can't be that entity that we are, causing to be, saying to be, probing to be, because we're quite clearly not.
Yep, and I'm going to put this to you, Russell, okay? For those of a certain vintage will remember, today's Sesame Street is brought to you by the letter U. Now, that was the first U, and it's unpronounceable. Ange Postecoglou, Pentecostal, or whatever his name is, Postecoglou, I think that's the correct pronunciation. This manager is being foisted upon the Celtic supporters and against many of their will. Now, the second U is the reason this is being foisted upon the Celtic fans is because of a board that are unaccountable.
Very good.
Do what they want. and if this manager comes in, you bet your bottom dollar that Celtic's version of the Untouchables, i.e. John Kennedy and Gavin Strachan, will be part of the backroom team. And as Amy alluded to at the start, it's totally and utterly underwhelming. 4 years so far. The fifth year, unacceptable. Why you can't go out and get Howe if that was your number one target. And I tell you what, see if this gamble backfires and Celtic are on a wing and a prayer with this guy. They're hoping that it happens.
Yes.
He hits the ground running. They have no idea how this guy's going to do or not. And see if it doesn't and it backfires, it'll be utterly unforgivable when you think that the club from the summer of 2018 to now has dragged itself to the depths that it has sunk to since then is unbelievable. That was about 7 years earlier.
It was, mate. That was really good.
So, Russell, what say you to that?
Well, I think you're spot on the money. Amy was spot on as well with everything that she said. I think that the club's... It's quite funny because it actually feels like... see, when you look at the contrast of Eddie Howe with this appointment, it actually strikes me that we've hired yet another yes man because we didn't want it. We still haven't learned from the mistakes, and we still don't want to have guys that are independent of their own mind and that are probably going to take you to task and call you and hold you to account. You're saying unaccountable, Tony. Eddie Howe would take the Celtic board to account. They would hold them to account, and he would ensure, I want my full team, I want to have my all backroom team, I want this player, I want that player, and you're going to go and do it. They've now hired someone yet again. It's a bold thing that they want yes men in these roles. They're going to give him his coaching staff again. We're not learning from the exact same mistakes we've already made so many times. It's strange.
King Jim said a thing on Friday, Amy, which he always refers to the accountant in him, and he says it all comes down to money. This just smacks of that, doesn't it? The CFC equals cheapskate FC. You know, because this is a cheap appointment, and if you're not to bring in any backroom staff, then even cheaper. You know, and if you've alluded to this guy, this is a big deal in Australia because this guy is possibly getting a crack. Of course he's going to take it. He's not going to turn it down, is he?
Absolutely.
If it's offered. And so it's just the way Celtic conduct their business. And as Russell said there, they don't seem to be willing to learn by any mistakes.
Absolutely. I appreciate, out in Australia, maybe he is well respected, and maybe, he's not a yes man. Of course, maybe he's not, but to us right now, we needed a big appointment within our sphere. And I know that can be a little bit blended and a little bit ignorant, but this is not the time for us to experiment and go out and try and bag an Australian, a hero, whatever you want to call him. I don't know. We needed somebody who knows really where we're trying to go. And I know that's maybe a silly question because God knows where Celtic's going right now. But we need somebody who could, and I keep using it, to steady the ship. We were a believable 25 points off behind the title winners this season. It's an absolute calamity, and it's been a season of calamities, and this just sort of adds to it. It's been a disastrous defence, and it just sort of seems like a disastrous defence of Eddie Howe as well, and a disastrous defence of our managerial role. It's messy, it's amateurish, and it's just really reflecting everything that's played out on the pitch for Celtic this season.
I'm dressed in black, Amy. It's the Johnny Cash gear. I've been in sombre mood since Friday. All right. Russell's a bit more positive now. People tuning in will be saying, you're probably too negative. Can we grasp at some positives from this Postecoglou? Russell, is there positives there? I know he's won titles in Australia and he's won titles in Japan and he's taken Australia to the World Cup finals. I mean, that to me is the only positive so far. I mean, people keep posting me links that he speaks well, he talks the talk. As Amy said, this is Glasgow Celtic. It ain't any football job.
No, I mean, I tried my absolute best on Friday. We had a great debate, Tony. I was trying to be as positive as I possibly could then. If I had known that this was going to be the name that was actually coming into the post, I probably would have revised my positivity on Friday and maybe second doubted myself. Maybe I was being a bit naive to think that there was going to be a masterstroke pulled off. I am underwhelmed. I think that's my favourite U out of your 7 U's, mate, was underwhelmed by the appointment that's going to happen. Well, what seems like it's going to happen. Who knows? They could still blow this deal as well. You never know. But no, it's not. It's not one that's going to get the fire inside, burning again. It's not going to inspire. And that's the key. Right now, Celtic felt inspired by an Eddie Howe vision or coming into emotion. Everyone really wanted that to happen. And if you miss out on your number one target, you make sure the second one, at the very least, is a name people can connect with. Unfortunately, we've got a name that we can't pronounce.
And also as well, with the Eddie Howe speculation, there was nothing from the board, no communication to say that it wasn't going to happen. And so to me, connecting dots, believes that they knew that wasn't going to happen, but they allowed that narrative to string along and happen in the hope that season ticket holders would renew by their thousands.
Yes.
So now, it's a strong word, but they duped and lied to supporters. And if that is the case, they duped them and they lied to them, thinking that the blind faith and the rebuild, remember that I was talking about last week, but because they never let anybody in on the fact that this deal was on the verge of collapse until Amy says, the Thursday was coming, the Friday wasn't. Amy, so, I mean, there's been Celtic supporters have been misled here.
Absolutely. And that's what really alluding to that. Obviously, that post came out that we had hoped to have a manager in place by the time these season tickets went on sale. And like you say, I appreciate they never named Howe, but it's so obvious that is who they were, insinuating it to be. So it's a massive disappointment. And I think I have no idea when you said that, Tony, but I've alluded to it for certainly the last few months. But you always said that Celtic needed an appointment, not a disappointment. And I just feel that this is a disappointment. I really do. I think, as Russell rightly said, I'm not buzzing about it. I've not got, I'm not going, wow, this is exciting. And I'm not just saying this because he's not, he's not how, but we've really spoke so much about what does Brexit mean, to our market, to our transfer targets. We're really going to be need to look within Scotland, within the UK, and I think that was a little bit of the excitement with Eddie Howe as well. This is a guy who's, we can talk all about his promotions and whatnot throughout the leagues, but at the heart of those promotions is playing in those leagues, so he knows the lower leagues of England inside and out. And I appreciate that I'm going to get some comments coming and going, oh, well, that's not where we should be looking, but there are little gems there. Look, my perfect example, look at Ivan Toney. He is just almost single-handedly took Brentford up, and they've got a fantastic setup down there, and Thomas Frank's done a great job, but he has been that missing link these last few years. I think that's 4 years now that Brentford really should have been up in the Premier League, but they've been missing that killer instinct of a striker, and Tony's got it. So there are players down there, and there's a market, and that's where we need to be delving into right now, because we're missing out too often, and we're missing up on talent up here as well, that there's little gems that are going, why is, Lyndon Dykes at Livingston, Mark Warburton swooped him up and got him down to QPR. I'm not saying that maybe Dykes, we should have signed him, but, he's got a lot, and Russell, we're all excited to see him to play for Scotland. So there's an excitement, big, powerful centre forward. So there are little gems out there. But does Postecoglou come in and know this? Is he going to try and bring in players from Australia and whatnot? And is that going to be plausible? Who knows where his eyes see? So it's. There's just a lot of matters have to come into it. So it's not just an ignorance that we don't know his name, it's also just thinking that the whole bigger picture, that why is Celtic aiming for a guy that doesn't really know the market that fundamentally we're going to need to be looking into?
Russell, we were speaking on the group chat, and a few things came up, and just touching on what you've said there as well.
Yep.
Two big major issues of concern, right, for people, Celtic supporters right now, are the lack of gravitas with Postecoglou, right? When you're trying to attract players and you're trying to get current players to stay, and you just feel, and as Amy's touched upon there, is he the right man to attract the calibre of player that Celtic need right now as they rebuild, right? Look at Tony, right? Tony was in the building when he left, and I'm not harking back because people hate you, but Brentford are now in an English Premier League club.
I know.
Because Ivan Toney scored over 30 goals. Right, so there's an argument there. They were the nearly men for 4 years, signed Ivan Toney, they're now an English Premier League club. It's a brilliant example there, as Amy says, right? And then the other fact is that he's probably a guy who's going to come in and take the backroom staff that the board want him to take, i.e. Strachan and Kennedy.
Sure.
Those two issues right away cause total and utter division amongst the Celtic supporters, because they're like, no, can he have that?
I think we go one further, Tony, as well. I think he's going to be signing the players he's told to sign. Well, I don't think he'll have any influence on that whatsoever. I know Amy was touching about the Australia thing. I actually think that's wishful thinking that we would give the manager such a platform to sign players he wants. I think that just doesn't fit in with the narrative we've now got. Unfortunately, this guy is going to be our yes man, our next yes man, I'm afraid. I can tell already.
Yeah, so, Amy, you said there, that's a worry moving forward. That, he comes in and is he au fait with the British game? I certainly don't think that he will be. He won't get handed a list of targets, but does he know who they are?
Exactly, but there's the flip side to that as well. Obviously the players fundamentally want to be signing for Celtic and playing for Celtic, but do they really want to be playing under this man who maybe they don't know themselves? Who's to say that? You obviously you can't talk for other players and whatnot and for targets, but you look at you look at Gerrard, that's a name that's going to be many young players' idols. The way that we're looking at right now, if you're aiming for a 20 to 25-year-old, midfielder or striker, Gerrard's going to be up there for one of their heroes just because of who he is. And you're not telling me that a lot of younger players would be wanting to play under Howe. I appreciate that there's obviously, you don't want to keep dragging back to Howe and now we can start to pick up, he wasn't this, he wasn't that. But the football that he played was exciting, it's dynamic. He's got a decent history of, getting young players through, helping young players along. We named some guys last week who would be looking to really be bringing in his sort of people. So there's a attraction there of his name, not only to the fans, but to targets, to players. And I don't know if a 55-year-old Australian Postecoglou has it. I don't know.
Well, if you're coming north of the border and you have a chance to sign for Celtic or Rangers, and you see the two managers, as you've just said, Gerrard or Postecoglou, to me, it's a no contest. You spoke about this off air, Russell. You would probably plump for Gerrard on the basis of the name alone, wouldn't you?
Yeah, I think so. And I appreciate that we were hoping with the Howe appointment, and obviously I was on many buses, right? But we were hoping with the Howe appointment, that was a sophisticated option. That was the guy who was going to take Celtic to another level, or back to a previous level that we were at, and with some proper coaching. The reason I always went back to Keane thing was, and it was one of many options, I wanted to get behind whoever, but I just thought Keane is a short-term fix in a short-term situation. Champions League money is nearly 99% guaranteed for winning the league next year. I can't believe we're going to experiment with that. I would have put, and I'm not saying it had to be all about Roy Keane, but you then go, who would you sign for, Roy Keane, Gerrard? You've got a debate. I'm not saying a lot of people, I'm sure, would still choose Gerrard. That's fine, but we're having a conversation, aren't we? You've just said there.
You've got a decision.
You just said there, Gerrard, or this option. I can't even pronounce his name, and we're not. Genuinely, you are going. It's Gerrard. Every single player will choose Gerrard over him. I would rather we were in the debate than not even, in the room. I think that's the sad reality of going for like this. And as I say, with so much at stake, maybe Howe's a long-term plan, right? And he would have been brilliant over a course of period of years, right? Or however long we could hold on to him. We now just need to get with it with short-termism, because the Champions League starts in 50 days. So we need a short-term view for that, and we need a short-term view for the fact that the prize this season is far greater than it's ever been. I would have went for a name as opposed to maybe the best, whoever we think is the best coach. And I think for all the arguments they make for this man, in terms of a coaching status, in terms of his managerial achievements, I don't think it's long-term vision that we've left ourselves enough time to be anymore. It should have been short-term FC this summer, Tony.
I couldn't agree more, because that 35 million Champions League money has been dangled in front of you for winning the title. And at this moment, your gut instinct telling you that Celtic probably won't win the title unless something miraculous happens. But get back to it, you're on a wing and a prayer, and you're hoping that this guy is the real deal. You should not be getting into a season hoping that your manager is the real deal, or scrambling to cobble a team together. There's lots been mentioned about the City group and the Fergal Harkin influence, if it's going to be Fergal Harkin. But I couch these words, Fergal Harkin is due to be appointed this week. I've heard that before, not in the distant past. So I treat that with kind of, disdain at this minute in time. But this whole City group franchise thing, So if Manchester City are the McDonald, and are coming to America style, right? Manchester City are McDonald's, then Celtic are McDowell's, the one that's trying to compete,
Very good.
That's the way the club's being handled and treated in my mind. They are McDowell's, the small man trying to make inroads into the Big Mac. I cannot get my head around this, how the club have fallen so far from such a position of strength and dominance. Let's not forget dominance, right? but they've allowed that in 3 years to slip through their fingers. It's astonishing. And the fans, I hate the word entitled. We never felt entitled. We were just enjoying being where we are.
Yeah.
And they thought that they would continue to evolve, because big clubs evolve. That's what they do. They have plans, they have structures, they have processes. But it turns out Rodgers is the exception to the rule. Clearly, Rodgers is actually the blip in what's happened in the last 3 years.
Wow.
Right?
Yeah. And who's appointed this guy, by the way, as well? I thought the director of football would surely have been... Well, if we weren't going to go for a house team, surely the first move we make is you get Fergal Harkin and then he chooses his man. Has that already happened?
Well,
it's hard to tell, isn't it?
Somebody has to answer those questions.
Yeah.
You were saying at the start as well that you're shaking your head because you're sitting there in disbelief. You can't believe this, can you?
No, I can't. Honest truth, no. I mean, as I say, I feel more foolish now for Friday than ever, because I was trying to bring waves of positivity, genuinely thinking if they've missed out on the guy that was, they've courted for months, it's so public knowledge this is your one, then I thought the only thing we'll do, though, which is a good thing, is we'll go get a huge name now to compensate for the missed opportunity. We're doing the exact opposite of what I genuinely thought, Tony, and I can't believe that. I can't believe they think this is the smart move and this is how they're going to... See, firstly, from a business point of view, we've talked about being treated as customers. If that's your customer base, you're not doing very well at keeping them on side and getting them to sell season tickets. It's a hard sell. It's a harder sell now with that guy in charge. And I know I'm being so disrespectful about him. I probably am a wee bit out of order, but I just think from a business point of view, you miss out on Eddie Howe. How do you sell season tickets? You would have went just for a name at the very least, right? But I'll tell you one thing as well. When it comes to the season ticket books, you're talking about being misled earlier. The automatic renewals had already begun before we admitted that how thing was off. I find that very naughty.
This is Celtic's idea of thinking out the box, right? And a lot of people are saying you don't support a manager, you support the club, you support the team. And I get that. And if it is Ange Postecoglou that comes in, we have no alternative but to get behind it. But you feel as if there's a gun being pointed at your head to say to you, get behind this guy. There are too many better candidates out there. I don't want to put you on the spot, Amy, but do you have anyone in mind that you would like to see Celtic try and attract, and if it's not going to be Postecoglou, or go to an alternative, just to sort of broaden that out?
To be honest, right now, I think it is just still... It's just such a state of disappointment, and I think there's a lot of angst kicking in more than anything. I think Russell just hit the nail on the head, and it'll be more than interesting to see on Thursday. JP's the countdown behind him, how many days until the transfer qualifier, because that is the worry. We are. It's going to be 50, around the 50-day sort of mark. We have no manager in place, no matter if it be Ange, if it be anybody. We still do not have one in place. How are we going to, get anybody in here, attract the players, the calibre of players we need, to not only to try and to get back in any sort of title race, because there was no title race this year at least, and get a place in Europe, kick on in Europe. Where are we right now? This is a worrying state, and I think right now, I think that's where my realisation is just like, wow, this is worrying.
People can spin it and try and be positive and talk about the fact that he's highly thought of in Australia and highly thought of in Japan, and I get all that. But, I just struggle to find the fact that he's probably not a household name in his own household. You know what I mean? So I just find it strange that this is Celtic's idea of thinking out the box. Go and get this guy. Somebody that no one has heard of, plucked from, a standards of football that, you would be disparaging towards. I've never watched the Australian Football League or the J League, so I can't really comment, because they just don't register on my Richter scale on my radar.
Fair.
All sorts of people saying, or the standards this or that, but all I know about Australia and the J-League is that it's usually a place where guys coming to the end of their career go for a large payday because some club offers them a ridiculous sum of money for a couple of years wind down. It's just my perception. So I just so someone out there can enlighten me, but they cannot. Those standards of those leagues cannot be anything near the Scottish Premiership. I'm sorry, they just can't. People probably tell me that they are, but I refuse to believe that. And if it is, then why are these guys or these managers who are supposedly talented, why are they not being snapped up right, left and centre?
I begin to think as well, see the fact that, obviously if you missed out on how, right, and you've got, I'm sure, Tony, a list of names, right, and we can touch on them if you want, but I'm sure the list you're talking about of names, why are they not feasible options? And maybe it just simply is the circumstances we make managers work under are just unacceptable for top managers, mate. They're just not going to do it. And I think everyone now and their auntie phones Brendan Rodgers straight away, why did you leave? And when they hear the home truths from him, as I've always said, I've revised my opinion on it. I'm sure I called him a rat at some point when he left like everyone else, but the reality is there's two sides to every story. And what was it that upset him so much that made him want to leave? Why did Neil Lennon accept getting his coaching staff picked from? The least man to ever act like that ever was Neil Lennon. He has too strong a personality, and yet he went in and took the job as Lennon Light, and that was upsetting. When you think about it, it came and bit us back on the backside, Now, we can't get the Howe deal done. We've had 3 months at this, mate. 3 months, if not longer. There's speculation that Howe was actually spoke to in November, and that the reason that he didn't want the job is because he was told not to work there while Slowell is. That is the rumour mill, mate. Now, we don't go for Howe, and we're not going to go for anyone of the similar ilk because it will be the same outcome. It will be the same end game. They will not work under the circumstances that you Celtic try and force upon them. Whether that be you need to have John Kennedy, you need to have Gavin Strachan, whether that be you need to sell before you buy, whatever it is, something doesn't tick all the boxes for top coaches to manage at Celtic. And you hit the nail on the head. The blip was Brendan Rodgers. Not the good. He was the one they didn't. It's like we see it as that was the best appointment in the last 10 years. They see him as a nightmare. That has to change.
Now the question at the bottom there, Amy, is Celtic move on to Ange Postecoglou? Will this appointment appease the support? $64,000 question, but your face tells it all.
I know, it's just a bit worrying, isn't it? Like I say, and we definitely have went a little bit harsh on him for a guy that he's not even stepped foot in the door or accepted the job. So there's no denying that when or if he comes in, then absolutely we will have to simply get behind him, because as I've said, it doesn't actually matter. It's not him that the anger and the mortifying this is at. Mortifying this.
That can't work. It's Monday, don't worry about it.
It's the predicament we find ourselves in, and it's the handling the handling of the club of this whole scenario. It's that's where the anger is directed towards, certainly from me, and it's disappointing. But will the appointment appease the support? I don't think so. I really don't. As I say, it needed to be an appointment, not a disappointment. And right now, I do feel disappointed. And again, it's not his fault, because, like you say, if Celtic came calling to you, 55 years of age then, and they're saying that they want a youthful, dynamic, forward thinking, and who knows, maybe he shows all wrong, but of course you're going to snatch that, and you're going to grab that chance with both hands. But I think right now it's not what we expected, what we'd hoped for, kind of what we'd advocated for. It's not that. Right now, this wasn't an opportunity for a. What's the word I'm thinking of? It wasn't a chance to take. We wanted something to come in and be a little bit stable. It wasn't a hit and a hope, and I just feel that's maybe a little bit what this is. We've not hit the height that we wanted to hit, and now I just feel it's disappointing.
And also, Russell, you said it there, if that narrative's out there that Celtic are foisting backroom staff and stuff like that, and, restrictions and budgets and stuff like that on any manager, that's out there now. So that is a barrier to hiring a top level or a high bar manager, as we've banged on about. You rightfully say guys will not come and work under those parameters and strict boundaries, which is why they probably had to go to Postecoglou, who sees it as a great opportunity and maybe blissfully unaware of kind of restrictions that might be placed on him. He sees it's Glasgow Celtic, it's a big job, this is my chance to shine in my stage. And as you say, we have gone in hard on him, we have, and we'll make no apologies for it, because we are Celtic supporters. We are disappointed. It's not the manager that we wanted, given the fact that we've had lots of months to sort this out. It is a crushing disappointment.
Yep.
And I don't have anything personal against Postecoglou, because he could come in, hit the ground running, and be, as I've said, that new messiah wherever he may roam. And I hope he is. But at this moment, your gut is telling you that it could have disaster written all over it. That's what your gut's telling you. And the other side is saying, give him a chance. Yeah, give him a chance. Yep. You're sitting like that.
Yeah.
You're getting into a season where you have 35 million quid's at stake, and you're going like that. Hope this is the right guy. Hope he brings in the right players. Hope.
Yep.
That's no way you go into any season. And especially no way to go into any season if you're Glasgow Celtic Football Club and you are acting like a big football club. I'm sorry, it's not.
No, I agree with you. I think as well. I mean, it's so baffling that we get a new CEO and Lawwell is apparently leaving the building, and we're all thinking it heralds a new era, but everything just seems to be the exact same. Now, I appreciate Peter Lawwell's still in position right now or whatever, right? But you would think that whoever it is that's coming in, it's a new era, it's a new dawning of a new age. Yet Celtic seem to be the exact same and doing the exact same things, and for the exact same reasons as what they would under Mr. Lawwell. So I wonder as well, maybe he gets it too tight, maybe it's far deeper rooted and there's an arrogance right across the board. Or some sort of strange business thinking that seems to keep us going from one episode to another. I find it honestly incredible that under these charlatans that we won 4 trebles in a row. It's almost a miracle.
Amy, every year we seem to go through the same state of flux, and I'll take you right back to when Strachan was there. Stephen Fletcher, they wouldn't sign him, right?
Yep.
Yeah, John McGinn, they wouldn't sign him, right? Ben Davis, they wouldn't sign him.
Yep.
And Tony, they wouldn't sign him. Then maybe how they could be clinched a deal. The common denominator in all of this, right, is cash, Amy, right? You've got to. That's it, right? But also, the protagonists that are involved in these deals, it's been the same people. The Celtic board, common denominator maybe, Russell alluded to there, Peter Lawwell, but is it deeper? What I said the other day, Arthur, what is it with Celtic that they can't conclude a deal, and every deal that they can't conclude has came back to haunt them in a massive, massive way?
Yeah, and to be honest, I'm probably the worst person to come to in this, because the way that you've perfectly put that out since Strachan's early days with Fletcher. That's my whole Celtic career. That's my whole Celtic life. That's all I know. So these disappointments, and like I say, it certainly doesn't make it any easier. And especially, I think in these last 40 minutes, I've really just took a real realisation that it's quite worrying that the state that we are in, that we are literally 50 days away, from Champions League qualifiers. But that has been it, and it's all these misses and these there's such a joke that I think every time you turn on a game, if it be in the Championship or anything like that, Celtic was linked to him, Celtic were linked to him. Celtic been linked to everybody. There's not a striker who I know who's been promoted from the Championship that Celtic weren't linked to, and I'm not joking. It's just a matter of fact. So I don't know. I think it definitely put to you guys, what's the difference under previous boards to now? But there's something just not clicking, and I really don't know what it is. And it has to be a deep-rooted issue because, as you say, we're moving on from Lawwell times. We've up-team managers, so it's not the managerial. We've been in states of dominance, we've been in states of chasing. So everything else has sort of changed and differed, but there's only been one recurring theme, and it's obviously it's the board, and if anything deep-rootier than that.
But it's the stripping of optimism, isn't it? You should go into every season with renewed vigour and optimism.
Yep.
And hope, right? Renewed hope, as you say. And they could, just when you thought things couldn't get any worse after the season that they had, when they never prepared properly for the 10, and then you got to February and they parted company with Neil Lennon, and you thought, right, this is it. You heard Dominic Mackay was coming in, you thought, they're going to tool up, they're going to get it right this time. And they've just sat and again, don't know what's happened, but they've rested on their laurels, probably thought Eddie Howe's coming in, everything will be rosy in the garden again, he'll do what Brendan Rodgers did. Marvellous. But you've got to do their bit as well. They're representing the supporters. You know what I mean? They're holding the highest office. We expect them to conduct their business at the highest level, and do it well, but it just, again, and then still asking you to fork out your money and not giving you a definitive when you can get back into the stadium.
Yep.
And it's, keep getting back to it, it's the supporters that feel the brunt of this. The supporters on Friday, a collective gasp, that sick pit in the stomach feeling that I alluded to when the Howe deal collapsed, you were like, deflating.
Yeah.
Devastation. And then it's guys like ourselves who are on this, trying to pick up the pieces from this and try and be positive as we attempt to move on.
I know.
How do we move on? How do we move on? Where do we go from here?
I think it's difficult, Tony, to try and move on when I think there's still got to be an inquest as to how it went so wrong, firstly. See, whatever reason there was that was taken out for Eddie Howe to change his mind on this, and it does feel like he's backtracked a bit, right? I think we can all say Celtic, yes, probably did rest in laws, but see, whatever reason he's given, firstly, how was it not fixable at the time? How could we not move the goalposts again then to accomplish getting him over the line? Secondly, how did we only find out now? How has it took so long? And we've used every excuse for him not coming to Celtic. I've already alluded to, I think the fact Peter Lawwell was there might not be a guy that you want to work with. Okay, fair enough. His new CEO comes in, still 3 months down the line, hasn't got him over the line. Right? Then you're looking at, it was a backroom staff that he needed to get from Bournemouth. That situation's now came to light. That was doable. It was all there because the playoffs have finished for Bournemouth. You're then talking about, was it his contract? Well, we didn't even make it to the 1st of June to give ourselves the hope that it might be a contractual thing, that his contract finished on the 1st of June, and we might somehow cling on to that hope. We've even blown that one. So I don't understand. Every reason that seems to be occurring for this or every excuse that we were managing to create for this not to happen has came and gone. He still has chose not to join Celtic. I don't understand. I want to know what it was and if it was fixable, and I want to know, secondly, why it took us 90 days to find out that we've got a manager under our sights that doesn't actually want to join you. How are we getting that so wrong?
Yeah.
How are we not smelling that, Tony?
Well, only those at the top can answer, and as you say,
I know.
They've not answered anything since the start of the 10 in a row season, so what chance have you got? But can I ask you then, if you had the choice tomorrow, who would you install as the new Celtic manager, Russell? Bearing in mind it's short-termism, as you say. I'm not trying to put you in the spot.
My heart now says Roy Keane.
Right.
But I would, my brain though, and I know you're going to agree with this one because we debated this 3 months ago, Tony, when we were first becoming best pals. And we spoke about it at length, and I says Steve Clarke would be who you would go for. If he has a good Euros as well, wow. he's going to look a hotter appointment than ever. Do you know what I mean? If he qualify, he could potentially qualify Scotland out of a group for the first time in Scotland's history.
Yep.
And you just know, as I say, about the short-termism, this is the real world we're now in. 50 days or whatever it is, I don't even want to see GP sign ever again, because the group stage is so close. You'd back him before anyone else to get us through navigate us through the extremely difficult route that we now face in the Champions League, because we finished second in the league.
Amy, what's your thoughts on that? A Roy Keane or a Steve Clarke, or are you...
I don't know. I've probably not helped myself out. I think I mentioned obviously the age of Postecoglou, and I'm not meaning, because there you go, Steve Clarke. I've definitely said that in the past, that I actually wouldn't even mind him for Steve Clarke, and he's probably older. But I think the point is that the reason that most fans didn't want Steve Clarke was because they said, he's older, it's not the youthful dynamic coach we were looking for.
Yeah.
If then we look at a Steve Clarke, or we look at, I don't know, a Mark Hughes, then the whole shift, then there's a whole mentality shift, and then you can really get on board in that sense with Ange. Just not the abundance of other issues. There's going to be issues with anybody we appoint now, because it's not going to be Howe, and they're not going to hit the heights of Howe. But I don't know if it's still the more youthful sort of looking manager, then his name's not been chucked about, but I'd maybe go, there's Steve Cooper down at Swansea, and I appreciate he just missed out on promotion, but I've been really impressed by him. I've watched a lot of Championship football this season, and I've been remarkably impressed. I think he's came in, he's something a bit different, and he's breaking a little bit of different mould, but it's a tough one, it really is. But then if you're going to totally abandon the whole youthful dynamic sort of approach, I wouldn't be against Mark Hughes, and I know there's been a whole debacle on Twitter about that. I appreciate that. I'm not going into that, but it's then he ticks the box of knowing the leagues, knowing the stature of the club, and just having a bit of a presence, having a bit of a name. That's the other point that we're saying. He needs a little bit of a name. Like say, if it be Gerrard, then it's up against Hughes. He's been there, done that, and I understand Hughes creates a whole lot of angst and different talking points and debate, but it's a tricky one no matter what. And like I say, right now, it's just, I think there's just so much, especially from me, disappointment and really, a lack of trust, lack of association with the board. And I think more than anything, we've talked about the disconnect with the board, but now there is a severe lack of trust.
Spot on.
Aye, completely enough. It's a trust issue now. Completely and utterly, as I've just said there, it's the disconnect in the division amongst the Celtic supporters is frightening. I spoke about a while ago the cannibalism on Twitter, where fans are eating each other, and it's because of the board that this has happened, and it's now happening over this, and this is the biggest decision the club are going to make in a long time, and they've plucked a relative unknown. And lots of Celtic supporters are Celtic supporters, faithful through and through, and I get that, and they'll just support the club no matter what and no matter who comes in, and that is fine. And as Amy alluded to there, it's not actually Ange Postecoglou's fault that he's been brought into this mix, but just disgusted by the way this has been handled from the get-go.
Yeah.
From last July, when they were preparing to go into the Champions League, well, didn't prepare at all. From last pre-season, really, right? Or last, when the season before ended, they just not prepared at all, and they put up a wall of silence and treated you with utter contempt and disdain. And the state that we are now in, that we are scrambling about trying to find a manager 50 days before we go into the Champions League qualifiers, just don't. And if people at the top can't see the way this club's been run and that they're a laughing stock, then what chance have we got?
I know.
Because they're no hurting.
No.
You're hurting. I'm hurting. Amy's hurting. 52,000 season ticket holders are hurting. Yep. And many other Celtic supporters all over the world are hurting. And they're staring in disbelief at this. And I get that the rank and file and the most optimistic people will say, give him a chance. We're going to have to give him a chance if this is the man. I mean, we've spat here for nearly an hour and we've gone in heavy, but if it's Ange Postecoglou, then he will get our support.
Of course.
He has to, because you're a Celtic supporter and that's the bottom line. But we're just finding it hard to be positive about this and the processes that have led the club to this. That's what we're having a go at here. And the fact that the manager, possible incoming manager, might not be the man that fits the role.
I know.
Fits the bill.
I think it'll all be summed up, Tony, if Near Beaton plays centre back in that first Champions League qualifier.
And
you think I'm having a laugh, and I'm actually trying. I'm like, it's actually a real chance of that being what we are dealing with yet again. And is that going to be fair on Ange Postecoglou? No, it's not, and that's why it'll be him. Because no one else accepts it, Tony, that is of a standing above what we should be aspiring to be. Yeah. People of that standing do not go for Celtic because they do not want to play Near Beaton as a makeshift centre-half in the Champions League. That is an example I'm giving, by the way. I'm not saying the job is defined by that. But you wouldn't be surprised again if yet again you see him as the makeshift centre-back in this first qualifier. Wow.
And do you know what? And I said to you off air, I'll say it to you now, I said I wouldn't be averse to bringing in a safe pair of hands like Gordon Strachan for a year until they did their due diligence and went and scouted a real manager and courted him for this year, right? Because Strachan's got that arrogant streak in him as well, a bit like the Roy Keane streak that you're talking about.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
That's right, there's arrogance there with Roy Keane, and you know he would go toe-to-toe with Steven Gerrard, but you can't for the life of you think that it would be a disaster waiting to happen. You know, whereas Strachan's been there before, under adversity, and he triumphed, you know, and people say, oh, you're talking rubbish. Yeah, but I'm talking about an actual safe pair of hands where you could trust. A wee bit of arrogance, you can get football results, you can win football matches, and he would probably do it under the circumstances, because he's done it before under those circumstances. You know, so you just say, right, get on with it. And I like Strachan. I think he had Scotland playing a decent standard before he left. So, you know, it's just an idea rather than plump for the unknown, the relative unknown. I know it might not be popular, Amy, but hey, we're not making nobody at the club's making any popular decisions at the minute. It's just another throw in there, isn't it? You know?
There's certainly no popular decisions. You're spot on there, and it's you know, how have we got to this state? You know, it's there is now a divided support. You know, that's not the state of play that we should be in right now. I think that, of course, now people will come out and say, "Oh, weren't really a fan of Howe and whatnot," but I think there was a little bit of there was a little bit of Howe that everybody could get on board with.
Sure.
Know? Maybe not complete, because nobody's going to please everybody, but I think there was a little bit of unity and a little bit of, wow, right, we're making that sort of step forward. But you know, like I say, there's a divided support right now, and any times this is the last thing that needed.
It was the echoes of Brendan Rodgers as well, Amy, with Eddie knew that he could come up here, reinvent himself, and be a winner, actually win stuff and that kind of thing, and take his career on to the next level where he wanted to, because this was a guy who was linked with the England job very early in his career.
Yep.
And Celtic were going to offer him that platform back to the big time, and people were on board with it and they were excited. Lots of people said that he got relegated, yada yada, but he kept Bournemouth. Remember, Bournemouth in the top flight in England.
I know.
5-6 years. Incredible. Right? So people were excited about it, and it's alright in hindsight to say, I didn't want him anyway. But did they not want them at the expense of Ange Postecoglou? You wait up now. You know, so that's my thoughts. And people were on board the Howe bus. Russell, everybody was on board the Howe bus.
I think so. I agree with you. I agree with you. Do you think they don't want folk like Eddie Howe? It's too much of a problem. They almost don't want people to be trying to push Celtic's, you know, the whole train, right, or the bus, shall we say. You're wanting it to achieve everything it can and go as fast as it can. And I almost get this vibe that Eddie Howe was a problem to them. Brendan Rodgers was a problem to them. Martin O'Neill, to an extent, was a problem to these guys.
Well,
right?
Yeah.
And Gordon Strachan might have done it once, Tony, but I think it's fanciful that he would come back and do it again. Do you know that? Not because your basis on him, just let me finish, sorry. Your basis on him was all sound. I actually think it would be folk like Strachan that would say no to us now.
Possibly.
I do.
That's a fair comment, actually, yeah. I guess so.
Your rationale is spot on. I actually think Strachans of the world wouldn't, but once bitten, twice as shy.
Well, as I said at the top of the programme, bring on the new Messiah, wherever he may roam. He's going to have to be a Messiah, because we're getting into this season on a wing and a prayer. Yeah, I've been Tony Haggerty, that's been Russell Boyce, that's been Amy Canavan. That's a wrap for Axum for the Monday.
Thank you, my man. Thank you.